British Council, jointly with Nilgiri Documentation Centre, presents Action Trail at the Blue Mountains of South India. For millions of years, the Nilgiris Blue Mountain ranges in southern India have been a treasure trove of natural forest wealth. Home to Aboriginal tribes for millennia and mysterious to the outside world. It was only in the early 19th century that it was discovered. The Nilgiris became India's first hill station and the country's favourite summer retreat. With its high altitude, abundant water and fertile soil, the Nilgiris soon emerged as a centre for coffee and tea plantations. For the once pristine Nilgiris, development, ironically, brought with it its own problems. In November 2009, the Nilgiris was lashed by continuous heavy rain that flooded the mountains and triggered hundreds of landslides, sweeping away over 1,000 houses and causing heavy loss to human lives. While this level of disaster was unprecedented in these mountains' history, the Nilgiris since the 1990s had been lashed by unusually heavy rain and floods. This made scientists debate if these local disasters were a result of the globally occurring climate change. Mountains cover 24% of the Earth's land surface and are home to 1/10 of its population. Further, over half the world's population is dependent on the water sourced from the mountains. Mountains also act as carbon assimilators and help reduce global warming. In India, where agriculture is so much dependent on a good monsoon, the mountains play a crucial role in the onset of rain-bearing monsoon winds. Mountains play a major role in influencing global and local climate. In the past years, climatologists have come to concur that mountains are the first indicators of climate change and believe that the changes observed in the mountain ecosystems give an idea of what may happen to the plains below. Recognizing the perils posed by global warming and the ensuing climate change, the British Council came up in the year 2008 with a specialized program of grooming promising young international climate champions as part of its Low Carbon Futures project. The project would empower the youngsters with the information, tools and commitment to combat climate change. Over 3,000 passionate champions have been trained in 60 countries to network, foster and spread the awareness of climate change and its mitigation. In 2009, the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, partnered the British Council for its international climate change-related programs. Now in its 75th year of service, the British Council chose the Nilgiris as the venue for the next action trail of international climate champions in association with the Nilgiri Documentation Centre.
This is the second international climate camp in India. We've chosen the Nilgiris, and it's a fantastic environment to be in. A wonderful natural environment, but an environment that has ecological issues and you know is under threat, and people work very, very hard to conserve it and preserve it the way it is. And we've brought together climate champions from all around the world, and this gives them the opportunity to look at a mountainous environment, a hilly environment, and see what they can do as individuals and communities working together to preserve a magnificent environment like this.
The champions arrive. For the week-long action trail in the Nilgiris, 36 climate champions from 10 countries arrive in the city of Coimbatore at the Nilgiris mountain base.
Please ensure that you get your group together and get them to work. We're going to visit a few land people here in the Nilgiris.
The group would visit specialized research institutes, interact with scientists and researchers, as also with media and economic experts, offering possible explanations and solutions to the feared climate changes taking place. The champions' first stop is at SACON, the Salim Ali Centre for Ornithology and Natural History, a specialized government research facility.
The process of storing carbon can be done only through trees.
Scientists brief the champions on this National Centre of Excellence devoted to the conservation of India's biodiversity, with special focus on birds and their habitats. Dr. P.A. Aziz, Director SACON, is a concerned man about the effects of climate change.
Humankind is going through a period now of very serious changes in the environment, and climate change is one of the most important things. And it is likely to affect human beings themselves in terms of their own very survival. We could see the changes in our own rain pattern, our own temperature regimes and things like that.
The Institute of Forest Genetics and Tree Breeding in Coimbatore is a premier government research centre. The champions meet scientists here and learn of their research on tree and crop varieties tolerant to changes in temperature, soil and salinity, as also resistance to pests, efforts that strive for enhanced food security under strained conditions.
Climate change is an important issue in which very scientific research is going on in this institute. The research done here also helps the farmers in the forest department, and the information on climate change is brought out through publication and passed on to farmers so that they are able to utilize the right type of tree and the right type of clones for agroforestry.
It is now time for the drive up the mountain. During the climb, the champions briefly stop to inspect the damage wrought by landslides in the disastrous November rains. While the images make a deep impression, their mind's eye also registers the captivating beauty of the dense Nilgiris forests. The Longwood Shola is a unique native forest tract right in the middle of Kotagiri town and is the source of the area's water supply through its numerous streams rising within. The town's residents proudly act as informed guides and take visiting nature lovers through their woods. The Longwood Shola trek sees the champions walking on a path of discovery, feeling the sheer joy of unspoilt nature.
Here also you can see
Tall trees curve over to provide a dense green canopy above, while the cool temperature within is unaffected by variations outside. The Longwood Shola is also home to over 60 varieties of birds. As the champions trek excitedly, the birds flying around bring pure music to their ears. However, a word of concern comes from this ornithologist.
We could see a lot of changes happening now itself. The tree starts flowering differently from their normal seasons. The birds starting breeding out of synchrony with other activities in the nature, like flowering, like insect swarming. And this out of synchrony type of incidences seen in many of the animals, many of the species. It damages it reduces their success in their survival. The whole issue of climate change and its negative effects is basically because of our unsustainable paradigm of development.
The Nilgiri Documentation Centre, located in the hamlet of Kannerimukku, is the spot of the first British settlement in the Nilgiris. The Documentation Centre is housed in the restored bungalow of John Sullivan, the district administrator who discovered the Nilgiris and introduced it to the outside world in the year 1819. While the champions go through the exhibits of the history and the making of this awesome hill station, local school students inform them as to how much this Sullivan Memorial Museum had taught them about the past, with so many lessons for them when they would carve out their future. In the Nilgiris, as in any mountain, the soil is a crucial factor in its well-being and is sensitive to climate change. The Central Soil and Water Conservation Research and Training Institute works on soil and watershed management in hilly regions and advises the government on local infrastructure protection and of the factors leading to landslides. The champions learn how soil is affected by rainfall and development, research inputs that underscore the effects of climate change, the inconsistent rainfall and contrasting temperatures in the region, as also solutions offered to mitigate climate change.
I have been through a lot of textual things regarding environment, regarding climate change, but seeing field people acting on their practical field, doing work, sharing their statistics, their data to us it's really eye-opening.
The government's Tribal Research Centre houses a comprehensive museum, an initiative that documents the history, the lives and the current lifestyles of the hill tribes of the region, their tools for hunting and food, as also social information on their lives today.
So we've seen a lot of elements of their daily life, which has been really cool because that has given us an insight on how they really lived and what their lifestyles were really like and how they could potentially change because of climate change.
What we essentially have to learn from them is how they are living in harmony with the nature and they are not destroying any part of the nature, and how sustainable their lifestyle is within itself.
A special experience awaits the champions as they enter a Toda tribal hamlet. Toda houses are uniquely shaped. Inside one of the huts is a Toda mother. Although with little formal education, she exudes tribal wisdom thus.
அந்த ஒரு விதையில ஒரு மரம் வளருது. அந்த மரத்துல எவ்வளவு விதை வருது. அந்த விதையில நம்ம இது பண்ணாதான் நிறைய மரங்கள் காற்று சுற்றுச்சூழல் பாதுகாக்க முடியும்.
While forest management is a tough task to perform, with the vastness of land to supervise, Mudumalai's field director, Dr. Rajiv Srivastava, narrates his team's passion and their commitment to protect the Mudumalai Reserve and the Mukkurthi National Park. Fires are believed to account for 1/5 of the total carbon emissions from human activities. In the Mudumalai Nature Reserve, the dry deciduous forests make it more susceptible to fires, natural or man-induced. In the past years, forest fires were a frequent occurrence here, destroying young trees, fauna and flora.
So major thing in the forest fire is to create awareness among the masses who are living in the periphery. It is related to the socio-economic problems too. We have started the Fire Disaster Management Center to reduce the time lag, the time. I mean, that is a major problem, how the information reaches fast. The communication system has been enhanced, and then the patrolling and controlling the forest fire. For that, disaster management rescue team is at 24 hours call.
While afforestation and large-scale tree planting offer obvious gains in the fight against global warming, initiatives taken up by the government and research bodies explore long-term solutions to mitigate the effects of climate change in and around forest areas. The Indian Institute of Science has a well-established research facility in Masinagudi on the outer fringes of the Mudumalai Forest Reserve. The champions learn from scholars there about their research on carbon sequestration and their study of the role of the local, dry, deciduous forests in assimilating carbon from the atmosphere, leading to the reduction of greenhouse gases. Carbon sequestration is the scientific process of long-term storing of carbon to help mitigate climate change. At the Institute of Forest Genetics and Tree Breeding in Coimbatore, the champions witness a unique and far-reaching ongoing experiment in carbon sequestration. Seedlings are placed in special chambers where carbon dioxide is introduced and the effects on the seedlings are monitored for farming and forestation purposes.
I arrived here in the Nilgiris a few days ago. There is already so much that I have learnt through the presentations from the various experts. For example, landslide, which have had a really devastating effect on the people of Nilgiris. We've also learnt about deforestation and how that is affecting the ecosystem here.
As the time nears for the Nilgiri Declaration, the climate champions debate, discuss, argue and finally come up with a consensual declaration by which they would reiterate the causative elements of so much hardships in the hills and the actions needed to mitigate, if not prevent them. It is now time for the champions to dedicate themselves to the messages of all that they had observed, all that they had learned, and now take it to the world outside.
As climate champions, we cannot guarantee ensuring a future for all of us, but we can provide with certain solutions that, if followed correctly, can definitely help in restoring the climate.
Ich habe in den 7 Tagen Schüler aus 10 Ländern kennengelernt und wir haben viel zusammen unternommen. Über die Nilgiris habe ich gelernt, dass es hier viele Probleme gibt und man sie schützen sollte. Wir sollten zusammenhalten und zusammenarbeiten, dann können wir was erreichen.
The champions first lead by example in their commitment to nature and its conservation. At the Sakon Bird Research Campus, they plant over 100 native tree saplings, aiming to offset the carbon footprints they would have left during their week-long camp in the hills. The champions believe that their mission can be achieved by reaching out and sharing their knowledge with the world, by speaking out on the dangers of human-induced global warming, by improving people's understanding on crucial issues, by offering solutions of mitigation and adaptation to the perils of climate change, and by inspiring positive action with one simple message to the outside world. The wealth of the plains depends on the health of the mountains.